quite peculiar. I thought it was worth a conversation on wealth and something that maybe you can also share with your kids. And I find a lot of young people, just sort of need that guidance, right? He's a young guy. He's probably 32, 33 years old. And he said something really strange about his contract. If you know anything about football, you know that Odell Beckham Jr. is one of the best. I mean, this guy has superhuman abilities on the field and a lot of respect for that. Well-deserved respect, I might add. And he said something that was really crazy on this podcast about his $100 million contract. He was literally kind of suggesting that it was impossible to make that money last. Like he was sort of saying, hey, this is, you got taxes, and if you spend 4 million a year, then blah blah blah. And it really, I think it probably offended some people because they probably felt like, hey, this guy's out of touch. This is ridiculous. And I get it, but I think that rather than being offended, I think we can kind of try to understand like what in the heck he might have been thinking. Like where would this come from? Like why would somebody have $100 million contract and believe that somehow they're still in the struggle, that building generational wealth is impossible. I mean, my God, if you can't build generational wealth with a $100 million deal, then there's no hope for 99.99999% of the population, right? So rather than just criticizing it and saying, okay, that's stupid, what's wrong with you? I think it might be more fun and more interesting to sort of ask yourself, like, how does a person even come to a perception like that? Like, right, like how do you even get to the point where you might even begin to be tempted to believe that a $100 million deal is not enough money for you to get by or enough money for you to live off for at least the rest of your life? Because really, the mandate is not just living for the rest of your life. I mean, your life is great, but your life is short. The mandate is that you would have several generations that can live for the rest of their lives. Like your kids can live for the rest of their lives on the money, grandkids can live the rest of their lives on the money, great grandkids can live their whole lives on the money, right? And you're like, well, how does that work? I mean, how does that money stretch? I mean, you have inflation, and in 50 years, $100 million, maybe that's going to be equivalent to 20 million or something, or so how in the heck would it be possible to even imagine a person surviving or a family surviving multiple generations off of one person's income? Well, that's where I want to come in as a finance professor and kind of give some guidance on that. So what I want to do is let's do a little digital field trip to my Instagram page. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance, and actually before I do that, I tend to be super serious. I don't want to go like some people call me like the financial Malcolm X because I'm so serious about the wealth thing. So rather than going Malcolm X on you, I thought I would start with by being an idiot and show you a picture of me with a bear. Now you see me on the phone. I'm flexing on the phone. I got my celly out and doing big business. And you see that big bear behind me? That's a big bear because artificial intelligence makes anything possible now. And so that bear represents what? Do you see what the bear's wearing a shirt, and the shirt says what? Can y'all read it? Let me know if you can read it. It says crypto crash. And why do you think it's a bear? Somebody tell me in the chat. Give me an answer. Why is that a bear? And why is that bear on the airplane with me? While I'm flexing on I should have been on a private jet or something. But why is this bear on this jet with me as I'm calling my wife to tell her that I bought this bear and the bear's wearing a T-shirt that says crypto crash? Can anybody guess? Give me a guess. Why is it a bear, not a lion or a leopard or a dog? Bear market. There we go. There we go. Because when the market is going south, they call that a bear market. When the market's going north, they call that a bull market. In Chicago, where the weather is just unbelievably bad right now, we've got the Chicago Bears, who happen to be leading the NFC North, that's a miracle in itself. And then you have the Chicago Bulls, who who haven't really had a great season since Black Jesus was on the court. His name was also Michael Jordan, but his nickname was Black Jesus. But anyway, so I have this bear. This bear symbolizes the fact that when it comes to crypto, I am buying the dip. I'm buying the bear. And so here we go. I'm gonna play this video and let me know if you can hear it okay. And then I'm gonna get back to Odell Beckham in a minute. But I figured before we get all serious, let's just have some fun and do a financial lesson at the same time. So here it goes. Baby, listen. I bought the dip and I'm bringing it home.
Baby, listen, I bought the dip, and I'm bringing it home.
So that's me buying the dip. That's how serious I am about buying the dip. I'm not waiting for the rip. I believe in the rip. I believe that this crypto market's going to recover. But I also will tell you, as we mentioned yesterday, and I was breaking this down, that the crypto market is, in my view, it was hit by a liquidity event. I think that there are people that are investors and there are people that are there that are visitors, if you will. They're just there on vacation. And so what happens is that sometimes the market cleans itself out. The market eliminates all the fly-by nights, and the only people that are sticking around are the OGs and the people who are long-term investors. And so ultimately, I think that times like this, when the crypto market is dropping and dropping and dropping, are the times where I believe that growing that this is where you grow your wealth. This is where you get your chops as an investor. This is where you show the world what you're made of. And so I hope that everybody gets that lesson. Let me know if you get what I'm saying. Let me know if you understand this. Let me know if you are going to at least commit to considering the value of buying the dip. Let me know if this is something you're going to, and I want you to get this, because if you get this and it becomes part of your soul and you understand what investing is supposed to look like, then you're going to be a better investor. You're going to make smart decisions. You're going to build a generational wealth. And if you want to see my favorite cryptos, I don't have the list with me, but if you go to my Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. Just go to any comment or any post and type the word crypto in there. And if you type the word crypto in, then you'll get a link to the list of my favorite cryptos. Or if you type the word money in, or the word invest in, the word profit in, all these words will trigger something that will give you some sort of free resource that'll get you started on investing. So go to Instagram. Dr. Boyce Finance is where you can find this. All right, now let's go back. Let's get back to Odell Beckham Jr. And this poor young guy who has been tricked. The devil's a liar, and the devil tricked him into believing that $100 million is just not enough to build any generational wealth. I don't know if that's what he believes entirely, and I'm not here to assume that he doesn't understand things. But I also will acknowledge that he's just one of the greatest athletes out here, and I'm sure he's a smart guy. So maybe this is a lesson. If you know him, tell him to call me, and I'd be happy to get on the phone with him and help him understand how to make that $100 million stretch in this tough economy. I know it's tough to get groceries, Odell. I know that it's hard to pay for maybe you got the baby's mamas, or maybe I know it's hard to get by and pay the car note with $100 million salary, but we shall overcome. So call me, man, and I'll be happy to talk to you. I talk to a lot of people. I love to help people. All right, so here we go. So let me play this clip for you. And this is his assessment of why it's hard to get by on $100 million. And then I'm going to explain to you why it's not as hard as you think. So here it goes.
$1 in my account right here today as we speak, I'm going to be straight for the rest of my life. No question, right? I don't think everybody is in that. And when you've sacrificed your whole life to get here, and you're like, yeah, I played 10 years in the league. And I always explain this to people, like, bro, you give somebody a 5-year, $100 million contract, right? What is it really? It's 5 years for 60. You're getting taxed. Do the math. That's 12 a year, that you have to spend, use, save, invest, flaunt, like whatever, however, just being real. I'm gonna buy a car, I'm gonna give my mama a house, I'm gonna do, everything costs money. So if you spending $4 million a year, that's really 40 million over 5 years, 8 a year, And now you start breaking down the numbers, it's like, that's a 5-year span of where you're getting 8 million. Can you make that last forever? And you always hear the people who ain't us and ain't been in the position, like, oh, well, that would last a lifetime. I have $1 in my account right here today as we speak.
Okay, well, you all able to hear that? Give me a yes if you're able to hear that. And give me a comment. Let me know. Just give me like a one sentence comment to help me understand. Just give me a sense of what you guys think about what he said. And let's not be mean. Remember, he's young, right? Like, so you got to remember, some of y'all are 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. So let's not make fun of him. Let's help him out. Let's make this a lesson. All right. So you can hear it. Okay, let me play it one more time so we can process this and think it through. So here it goes.
I'm gonna be straight for the rest of my life. No question, right? I don't think everybody is in that. And when you've sacrificed your whole life to get here, and you're like, yeah, I played 10 years in the league. And I always explain this to people, like, bro, you give somebody a 5-year, $100 million contract, right? What is it really? It's 5 years for 60. We're getting taxed. Do the math. That's 12 a year, that you have to spend, use, save, invest, flaunt, like whatever, however, just being real. I'm gonna buy a car, I'm gonna give my mama a house, I'm gonna do, everything costs money. So if you spending $4 million a year, that's really 40 million over 5 years, 8 a year, And now you start breaking down the numbers, it's like, that's a 5-year span of where you're getting 8 million. Can you make that last forever? And you always hear the people who ain't us and ain't been in the position like, oh, well, that would last a lifetime. Have a
All right, so you can probably guess where I'm going to go with this, right? I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining how a person could actually survive off $100 million. I think that part. Can we move past that part of the conversation? I want to. We gonna jump. We gonna skip first grade, and we gonna go to middle school. Is that cool? Is that all right? I'm not gonna you sit here, and waste your time by explaining something that is quite obvious. But what I want to do is use this as a deeper opportunity to dig into wealth. And I wish I knew Odell. I wish but then some of athletes and entertainers and stuff, and sometimes they call me. They're the guy that played for the Cowboys. They played at Ohio State. Ezekiel Elliott. His father came to the last All Black National Convention, and I loved his dad. His dad's such a great guy, and his dad has a lot of connection to NFL fathers, and they're doing really extraordinary work on just really giving mentorship, helping young guys understand that, yeah, you can survive on the $100 million contract. It's gonna be all right, Pookie. You ain't nobody gonna starve to death. But here's what I want you to really kind of consider. First and foremost, let's start with something very basic. Let me ask you a question. Trivia, Black wealth trivia here. What is the number one wealth driver in the history of the world? What is the number one wealth generator in the United States? What is the number one place that people put their money if they want to be rich in America? You heard me say it before. I wrote my dissertation on it. The stock market. Okay, so the stock market is the undisputed heavyweight champion when it comes to building wealth. And the American stock market happens to be exceptionally strong at that. Did you know that if Odell Beckham, let's say Odell Beckham wasted 95% of his money, let's say that he said, you know what, screw the Boyce Watkinses of the world. I'm going to just let it fly and just enjoy my life. Because if you've seen Odell, he likes to party. He hung out with the Kardashians and all that. Um, I think he did. And so he blows 95% of the $100 million. But let's say that he says, well, just in case this guy has a point, I'm going to take 5 million, a measly 5 million out of the 100, and I'm not going to take no investing classes. I'm not going to sit through no seminars. I'm not going to talk to no advisors. All I'm going to do is put my money into an S&P 500 index fund at the age of 22, 23 when I get my big signing bonus, and I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there for old age and everything else, for generational wealth, because my kids and grandkids, they mean a little something to me. They're not as important as me, but my kids mean they mean something, right? Guess how much money he would have if he left that money and just let it sit there until he hit, like, say, retirement age. He would have almost $250 million. It sounds ridiculous. It's insane. Compound interest. Albert Einstein said compound interest is the strongest force in the universe. So if you put that 5 million and left it in there for 30, 40 years, he would have roughly about $200 million, 200 to $226 million, and that's literally with no investing knowledge, no checking on the portfolio, no meetings with investment advisors, no finance classes, nothing. Not even a 30-second conversation with somebody like me. So that right there is what I want you to consider. And let's say I'm exaggerating. Let's say the number's only 100 million. Uh, you know, that is still generational wealth. Can we agree? Give me a yes if you agree that if you leave your kids and grandkids $100 million in the trust, that would constitute solid generational wealth. Give me a yes. Okay. So that's the first thing. But the second piece I want to drill into as well is, I want to get past this idea that in order for someone like him to build generational wealth, that somehow they miss out on it because they spend all the time partying and buying fancy cars and going to the club and everything else. That's part of it. But what's really missing is not it's not sort of the long-term investing that becomes the issue or the partying that's the issue. It's the lack of balance. It reminds me of college. When I went to college, some of y'all heard me talk about this. Remember in college when they were like, don't be going to them parties and them step shows, because you go to the parties, you're gonna flunk out doing all that partying and stuff. Up there going to parties, you're gonna be flunking out, boy, right? And they would say that to you, and I thought that that meant that if you partied at all, that you were gonna flunk out. And then I learned the truth. The truth was not was that there's never been a party that caused somebody to flunk out of college. It's when you don't study in between the parties that causes you to flunk out. My sister went to college and she partied like she was a party animal. My sister went to all the parties, but she had a 4.0. Why? Well, because in between parties she studied. She had balance. So Odell Beckham Jr., being a man who likes to be flashy and fly and all that, that's not what might cause any financial problems that it appears. I'm not sure they've used words like bankruptcy in reference to him. I have no idea. I'm not here to speculate on that, and I wish him the best. But it's not the partying and all that that gets you into trouble. It's just when you don't put something to the side in the process. You just invest, put out your investments, and then go party. And then what happens? The thing about investing is investing becomes the wealth driver that allows you to make money after your knees give out, right? For Odell, if you followed his career as a football player, he had a great career until he started getting injured. Why? Well, because the body is a depreciating asset. His body is a massive $100 million financial asset, right? It's a work of art. This man is extraordinarily fast. He's caught. I've just seen him make these catches with one arm, and this guy. I mean, it's fun. One day, just go watch highlight reels from Odell Beckham. You'll be amazed, right? He's extraordinary, but the body depreciates as an asset, and so so the LeBron approach to things is that LeBron consistently makes investments so that when his body gives out, he doesn't need to play basketball to make money. His wealth will play basketball for him. His wealth will go out and make the money for him. His economic engine is no longer the body or even the mind, it becomes the capital. The capital is the best economic engine ever because it can work 24 hours a day. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't need a day off. It doesn't get stressed out. It will work for you around the clock all day, every day. So the number one goal, the American dream, the American dream exists, by the way. There is such a thing as the American dream. The problem is that the American dream doesn't go to the poor. And I hate this. This is not fair. The American dream does not go to the worker. The American dream can only exist for the consistent investor. The consistent investor will get to live the American dream. The consistent investor will get to have the fantasy of going to sleep and waking up with an extra $1,000 in their bank account. The consistent investor is the person who can say, "Oh my God!" Like my daughter called me and said, "Oh my gosh, Dad, I made $100,000 last year because my house value went up, and I didn't even do anything. I didn't even have to work for the money." I was like, "Yeah, that's what I've been telling you for a long time. Like own property, and when you have asset appreciation, that's going to make money for you that your boss might never pay you, right?" And these are not dreams that just only happen for the extremely rich. In fact, the extremely rich don't have automatic monopolistic access to the American dream. The extremely rich are not guaranteed the American dream. I can point to a million examples of extremely rich people where their wealth became an American nightmare. So don't get it twisted. Don't fall for the lie. Don't believe the myth. The myth is that, well, if you want to have a good life in America, you got to have money, and to make money, you got to have money, and the people that got money got it. Yeah, having money matters, but if you don't manage those assets, if you mismanage those resources, that money can take you out. It can destroy you as quickly as it can build you up. It's like me giving you a Ferrari and you don't know how to drive, and then you get behind the wheel driving drunk, blindfolded, and you crash into a wall and you're paralyzed for the rest of your life. And then you say, "Oh my God, cars are terrible." No, cars are not terrible. You managed the car in a terrible fashion. The car is not terrible, you're not terrible, but your choices were terrible, which led to your terrible outcome. Do you understand? So don't think that the American dream can only happens for people that are given wealth. Um, the American dream happens for people that have a conscious and intelligent use of assets and resources in a way that allows those assets to grow and then sustain and protect them over time. That becomes the American dream, where you're making money while you sleep. That's about as close to the American dream as I can think of. So let's go deeper into this with Odell Beckham and drill into this. And just a reminder, everybody, today at noon we're doing our stock market Tuesday. So if you want to join us in our stock market investors club, just go to drboystockmarket.com. You can start off for free, do a free trial. drboystockmarket.com. Bring your whole family, bring your kids. That's perfectly fine. Secondly, later on tonight at 8:30 Eastern, I'm going to do an analysis on AI investing. I'm going to literally do a complete breakdown of the entire industry, all the different angles of AI that you can invest in, different stocks you can pick in different sectors, and the use of AI to make investment decisions. I'm doing that in our AI Investors Club. If you go to AIEmpiresociety.com, that's where you can check it out. I'll send out a link as well, but AIEmpiresociety.com. So somebody type that in the chat if you could. AIEmpiresociety.com. Micah Smith is our AI expert, and she's really, really good. And so she asked me to do it, so I'm happy to do it. All right. So with Odell, here's another thing that I think that I would love to have him consider. That if we were talking, I'd love to break this down for him. Odell Beckham is a person such that he, even if he didn't have a nickel in his pocket, he's still a millionaire. Even if Odell Beckham just pissed away every single nickel that he ever got for his for playing football, even if he literally got took every penny of that 100 million and threw it in the garbage, he would still be a multimillionaire. Well, why is that? Well, because most wealth does not show up in the form of money. Money is one of the least significant forms of wealth. And this is why I explained to you that if you're black and intelligent and you have a family and you're a hardworking person, you're a good person and you've got free time on your hands, you're already a millionaire. You just can't see it. And this is why financial consciousness comes into play and it's so important because part of consciousness is sight. It's the ability to see things. Right? So I can't help you invest your wealth properly if you don't even see it. If you don't see your worth, then no one will ever see it because you won't utilize it. You're going to think that your worth is over here or over there or all this other. That's why I'm not big on integration and all that. I don't care about integration. I'm not into segregation, but the integration unfortunately is predicated on this false idea that black people are only worthy if white people accept us, and I just reject that vehemently. I don't know a single white man who's sitting around dreading over the fact that black people have not accepted him into their space. I just don't see that. I don't see white people fighting and suing and marching and praying to spend money in black businesses. I don't see white people begging to get into HBCUs, right? So my point is to say that you are somebody. Shout out to Jesse Jackson. You are worthy, even when no one else sees your value, right? So let me give you some different areas where I see wealth within Odell Beckham. Branding. Oh my God, this man is at least a $100 million brand. This guy is known everywhere. He's partying with the Kardashians. Uh, he can take that brand. That brand can be sold to corporations, for endorsements. I'm sure he's had conversations about this. That brand has a tremendous amount of cultural influence. I can't influence the culture the way Odell Beckham Jr. can. Odell Beckham, I remember I mentioned to you all when I went to, Larry Miller, the former president of the Air Jordan brand, invited me to an NBA All-Star party that they had. And at this party, my wife and I were walking around, and I sat next to a guy who happened to be the creator of Beats by Dre headphones. And I thought I just listened to him. I was really curious about the conversation because I just thought they did a remarkable job of making people believe that the headphones were more valuable than they were. And I knew their strategy. Their strategy was really simple. We're going to take these headphones that are probably not much better than what you could get from Bose or something like that. And we're going to have celebrities wear these headphones. And they're going to see Beats on the headphones, and people are going to see Serena wearing the headphones, Lil Wayne, LeBron, whoever they got for the endorsements. I don't remember all the celebrities they got, but that's going to make people want to buy them because people are impacted by what they see their favorite celebrities doing. and it worked. It worked like a charm, right? So I'm not saying that those headphones are cheap. I had a pair of Beats by Dre headphones. They were okay. They weren't bad. But I've also had a pair of Bose headphones, and those are I like those on when I get on the airplane. I put on my Bose because they got the good noise canceling, right? So the point of the matter is to say that Odell Beckham Jr. has at least a $100 million brand when it comes to cultural influence. That's another type of wealth. Another area where he's got a lot of wealth, and a lot of athletes, some athletes see this, some athletes don't see this. Um, you've got this unbelievable network of people that you can pick up the phone and call just because you were on TV last night. Right? If you're a internationally known or nationally known football star, you can get meetings with bank executives. You can get meetings with the heads of corporations. You get meetings of people in high levels of government. You can go to Silicon Valley, and all the Silicon Valley bros want to hang out with you because you're this athletic star. That should be parlayed into business opportunities. Maybe not so much for you, but for people that are connected to you. So, you're Odell, and you got a nerdy friend. Let's say you got a nerdy guy like me sitting next to you who, they don't care who the hell I am. But intelligent black men who do stuff like have PhDs in finance are not that interesting to the world. The thug persona is more interesting, or maybe the gangster rapper, or the comedian, or whatever, right? And I don't care about that. That's fine with me. But what you do is you use that influence and you go out to Silicon Valley, you sit down with Sam Altman, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and you say, "Hey, Zuck, this is my friend Boyce, and we're building $100 million company, $1 billion company that's going to hire people in our community to build the next stage, to build data centers for artificial intelligence, or whatever the hell it is, whatever it is, right? You are the plug, you are the connect. You can open that freaking door, and I think that some athletes, I think some guys, some celebrities are getting it, but I think too many don't get it. I think part of it also is because they're young and they don't have good mentors, right? So, I think that the presence of mentorship for these guys while they're young is really important because they have an enormous amount of power and influence early. And by the time they become conscious of it, their career is long gone. They're 45 years old and they're like, "Oh wow, all that time I could have done this and could have done that." Well, this is where the OGs come in. This is where guys like me come in and talk to you when you're 21 and say, "Hey, you can pull this off. You do know. All you got to do is say this and this and this, and this is going to work." And so really, I think with Odell, um, it would obviously be just a huge uh false belief to think that somehow all he's got is $100 million contract and the ability to catch a football. This man has the ability to move mountains if he had the consciousness to even understand, the power of the tools around him. One person who I think gets it really well, and who I was really impressed with, is Ice Cube. Ice Cube understands the power of being Ice Cube. And what I loved about Ice Cube's contract with Black America, everybody should go read it. It's really, really good. You should give just like really go take a look at it. It was really good. I didn't know the guy when I read it, and I was like, oh, is this another entertainer that's pretending to be a black leader, right? But I read it and I said, this is really well done. Like this is well thought out. He covered all the bases, everything from wealth inequality to police brutality to economic justice and reparations and social I mean, they covered everything. And I said, wow, this is really good. I've listened to a lot of Ice Cube albums, but I've never heard him go this deep on a record. And what I found when I read it more closely is that he had consulted with leading experts in all these different areas. He was going back to, I think there was a guy at Ohio State he was working with, a faculty member there that was helping him. I got on the phone with him and I was talking to him and I was in my first assessment. When somebody wants to talk to me, my first assessment is, okay, are you really going to listen or am I wasting my time? He was really listening. I was like, oh, so well, since you're listening, let me tell you, there's this and there's this and there's this and there's this, and it's great. Like that collaboration is great. So what I think is important is that the reason that the black entertainer is so critical and the black athlete is so critical to the status of the black community is that it's very important to appreciate those who understand or who have connected to the responsibility to the broader community, who haven't sort of just walked away with this idea that I'm not accountable to anybody other than myself, right? All I care about is myself. I don't even care about my own kids, right? Because caring about your kids is what leads you to build generational wealth. Like caring about the community is where you say, okay, this opportunity that was given to me, there should be others that benefit from it. Why? Well, because this community, these were the people that were feeding you before you were hanging out with the Kardashians. This is the community that took care of you back when you were just a poor black kid who you were good on the high school football team, but you didn't have no money, you didn't have no real clout, right? These are the people that raised you and fed you and protected you when you were vulnerable. So why wouldn't that community matter to you? And so now that you've got this access in these networks, um, seeing the wealth that comes with these networks is absolutely essential. The fact that you can pick up the phone and talk to Jeff Bezos. I've seen athletes sitting with Jeff Bezos, and I'm like, do they understand what, what a collaboration with Jeff Bezos and done in a structured way could do for all the people that you care about? Do you understand that Jeff Bezos can print money like he's a walking government? This man probably has had many years where he's made 50 to $100 million a day, right? So if black wealth matters to you, if your homies matter to you, if your family matters to you, your people matter to you, then what you do is you get these people on the phone and you say, okay, if you're really my fan, then you'll collaborate with me on this, or you'll help me get access to capital, right? So for example, a lot of people think that black people can't afford to have their own sports league, which that right there that's a statement that should insult you. That should insult you. And the reason it should insult you is because we've talked about black spending power, but there's no power in spending. So that's an oxymoron. But we've talked about how much money black people have to spend every year, about 1.7 trillion, something like that. That spending power with that amount of money makes you as economically strong as 95% of the countries on this earth. That you have more income than most nations actually do. You'd be like in the top 12, right next to Russia, right? Russia has its own school systems. Russia has its own sports leagues. Russia has its own everything. So the idea that we don't have enough resources to start a professional sports league is a very strange thing to me, because all that really would be required, in my opinion, is if you got a bunch of individuals together who, let's say, they didn't contribute one nickel of their own wealth. They simply used their networking capital. They simply got on the phone with banks and potential investors and people that are using their clout for other reasons, advertisers, whoever, and said, okay, this is what we're doing. We've all got a total of 300 million followers on social media. And so we're going to play these games, these football games, because we've got an oversupply of black talent. We have no trouble finding super talented guys back in our hood who could be in the NFL, or they're just an inch away from being in the NBA. So we're going to play these games. We're going to get these fans by distributing the games on our social media so that everyone can see them. And we want you to come in and be sponsors of what we're trying to do. This league immediately in the first year would make over $100 million. It wouldn't be the NBA, it wouldn't be the NFL, but it would grow at a much faster rate than the NBA and NFL did, because you got a lot more to work with. The Chicago Bears are worth about $6 billion. They were purchased 100 years ago for something like $100. Maybe it was $500. It was something like that. The New York Giants, $25, right? So it took time to build these entities into the multi-billion-dollar assets that they were. For black athletes, there would actually be a shortcut. It would be a shortcut. But the key idea is that you can't assume that your 28-year-old self is going to understand all the subtleties of economics required to pull this off. So this is where you bring in the scholars and the thinkers and the teachers and the businessmen and women and the attorneys and all the people in your community who are ignored, right? The world showers all kinds of attention on black entertainers, but pays no attention to black intellectuals. And you pull them together to the table and you say, hey, I'm going to be the one that's going to be the connector. I'm going to be the one that's going to draw the attention. I'm going to be the one that's going to go out here and make the phone calls. You tell me who to call and you tell me what to say and you tell me, you give me the plan, and I'll go bust it. I'll bust down the door to make this plan happen. Very easy to do. You got to block, but you got to want to block for your teammates, right? You gotta want to be part of a team and part of a plan. You can't fall for the really racist lie that says that once athletes hit a certain level, they're supposed to disconnect from their power base. That's all by design. That's structured in a specific way. When I was in college and I worked, I sat desk at the in the basketball players dorm. It was called Wildcat Lodge. And at University of Kentucky, the basketball players are like they're basically celebrities. And even before athletes got paid, they still had plenty of money for whatever reason. Money would be given to them under the table because that's how you got the best athletes. And I remember specifically the minute they came in to campus, they were disconnected from the rest of us. They didn't, they were pulled away. It was almost like now that you don't have to be black anymore, let us show you how to be white. Let us show you how to be hey, how the other half lives. So they lived in a separate dorm. They had separate activities. We didn't see a lot of them at lunch and dinner and stuff like that because they were just sort of pulled. They were ushered away. And so ultimately, what would happen is you would have some individuals though. There was a guy named Nazi Muhammad. I'll never forget him. He played in the NBA who was raised with a certain foundation. He was raised, I could tell he was raised by people that told him who he was very early. So he deliberately sought us out, right? So I was kind of known as a campus activist. I would write in the campus paper, and everybody knew my name because of that. And Nazi sought me out and wanted to talk to me. Or there would be black coaches who would get the athletes and bring them over to talk to me. Right. This is the 25-year-old, 26-year-old boys. This is a long time ago. And it was interesting because I remember one athlete being brought named Derek Anderson. The coach brought him to my office to meet with me, and they had to do the meeting in private. They could not tell the coaches that he was coming to talk to me. And it was so fascinating. I was like, wow, this feels like slavery. This is so what is so dangerous about talking? I'm a math teacher. What's dangerous about him talking to a math teacher? Well, we know why it's dangerous. It's dangerous because there's always been an effort to ensure that black people that have access to resources either don't have the courage, the wisdom, or the advisors to show them what to do with those resources. You're given power under the condition that you're not really going to use that power to in any way challenge or disrupt the existing power structure. So all of the people like myself are seen as the troublemakers that you should stay away from if you want to keep your good job. Right. And that's why I tell people when they want to invite me in to speak, on diversity day at their company or whatever, I'm like, you don't really want to do that because if I come in there and I'm honest, I might end up getting you fired. I don't want to get you fired. So just listen, just come to my morning class for free in the morning and we'll do it on the side. But you don't really even want to sort of have that open association because there is a racial bias in America that doesn't want that to happen. But really, I think it's time for some power moves. I really do. And I think that there are some athletes that get it. There's a guy named Jaylen Brown that plays for the Celtics who said some really remarkable things about money and wealth and everything else. I never met Jaylen. I know someone who knows someone or something, but I don't have time to chase that stuff down. So if he calls me, I'll talk to him. If he doesn't, I can't. I don't have time for that. I like him. If he called me, I talk to him. I just don't know how to get in touch. So it's not even something that I'm able to do because I'm too busy talking to you. This is more important for me. But still, though. I love that, and I think that that should be built upon. And I think the most important part of that is that when I hear Odell Beckham talk about how hard it is to get by on a $100 million contract, I just sit here and I say, my God, who is in your ear? Who are your advisors? Who are the people that even allowed you to even go on a podcast and say something that just makes such little sense? Because now people are going to make fun of you. They're going to call you stupid. They're going to call you entitled and arrogant. And I don't think that that's fair. I don't think that that's I think he's being honest. And if you're being honest and your perceptions are still that misguided about wealth and money, that means that whoever is in your ear talking to you is teaching you a whole lot about football, but they're not teaching you nothing about the game of life. The real competition starts once you retire. That's when the real game begins because then you're Superman, but now you're gonna have to walk around with a pocket full of kryptonite, and you're gonna have to survive as a normal man. And what you'll also find with so many athletes is that once they're no longer in that Superman most favored Negro status, many of them have a hard time adjusting. You'll see athletes that maybe will get involved in stuff like dealing drugs or whatever because they can't fathom, they don't know how to go back to making the amount of money that they were making as athletes because they were given such an unrealistic worldview by being 25 years old making $1 million a month. That's not normal. So when they become a regular guy at the age of 35 because the NBA or the NFL doesn't want them anymore, many of them have a lot of mental health challenges, and that doesn't even include the brain damage that might come from playing football for 5 or 10 years. So ultimately, I would say that life optimization requires that you have some perspective, and your goal should be to gain as much consciousness as you can, because consciousness will allow you to see further down the road to prepare for life after football, life after basketball, whatever the case may be. And I don't think Odell is a representative of most athletes. There's so many athletes that I think have it figured out. Etan Thomas is another guy that I really respect and admire a lot. I knew Etan. I didn't know him when he played at Syracuse, but he was an All-American at Syracuse. He played in the NBA. He played with Michael Jordan for a few years at the Washington Wizards, and he's been my friend for probably 20 years now. And Etan and I he reached out, and we're going to do some events later on in 2026. And I can tell you, Etan he married a woman that was on the Syracuse basketball team, and they got married probably 15 years ago. And I don't know what he did with his money, but I do know he retired early, and he doesn't give me the impression that he's struggling financially at all, right? And so really, the challenge with investing too, I think, in wealth preservation is that wealth preservation requires a certain amount of security and conservatism. And when you look at an athlete like an Odell, who's very flashy, very loud, kind of a risk taker sort of guy, that wealth preservation mentality, that conservative nature of a wealth preserver, is in contrast to that of a loud, flashy athlete. But I think Odell could have pulled it off, because I'm sure as an athlete, you're taught how to preserve your body, right? Because your body is your moneymaker. Well, your economic body can be preserved as well. And that really does require you to do basic things like living below your means, or having that balance that we talk about. And it's wild to me when you have athletes that live in this modern era where there's information everywhere, there's knowledge everywhere, there's experts everywhere, and you still think that $100 million is not enough for a person to survive. The last piece on that too is that when he spoke about let's play the clip one more time. There's one more point I want to make about this, and then we'll finish up for today. Um, let me switch this. Okay, so I want to play this clip one more time, because there's one more thing, one more wealth lesson in here that might have been missed the first time around. So give me a yes if you guys can hear this when I play it. Let me know if you can hear it. All right, so here it goes. Let's listen to it one more time.
Dollar in my account right here today as we speak. I'm gonna be straight for the rest of my life. No question, right? I don't think everybody is in that. And when you've sacrificed your whole life to get here, and you're like, yeah, I played 10 years in the league. And I always explain this to people, like, bro, you give somebody a 5-year, $100 million contract, right? What is it really? It's 5 years for 60. You're getting taxed. Do the math. That's 12 a year, that you have to spend, use, save, invest, flaunt, like whatever, however, just being real. I'm gonna buy a car, I'm gonna give my mama a house, I'm gonna do, everything costs money. So if you spending $4 million a year, that's really 40 million over 5 years, 8 a year, And now you start breaking down the numbers, it's like, that's a 5-year span of where you're getting 8 million. Can you make that last forever? And you always hear the people who ain't us and ain't been in the position, like, oh, well, that would last a lifetime.
Okay, so one thing that I wanted to mention on that as well is that he talks about wealth as if it's stagnant. When you talk about, let's say you go to his worst assessment. I think he said 100 million over 5 years. That's 20 million, but then you pay the taxes, and you've only got 12 million left, and then you spend 4 million, so you got 8 million a year. 8 times 5, $40 million. How's that gonna last for the rest of my life? Again, I still even that's still almost like a hilarious thought for a lot of us, I know. But stop laughing for a minute, because I want to make this point. $40 million in there's something called the time value of money. $40 million in 2025, it should not be $40 million in 2035. Right? $40 million in 2025 doesn't represent like some stack of money that's got to last where you're just chopping pieces off this money and then each year you're thinking, okay, if I live another 50 years, I got to take 40 million divided by 50, or let's say 40 years, right, to make the math easy, so I only got $1 million a year. That right there ignores one of the most fundamental and crucial principles of all of finance, which is that your money is a living object. Your money is supposed to live, your money's supposed to grow. The only time your money does not live is when you kill it. The only time your money does not grow is when you stunt its growth. This is the danger of the fact that many people in our community are brainwashed into consumerism, because when you're brainwashed into consumerism, all you're doing is you're murdering your money. Your money's a living like a newborn baby, and you're just you're killing it. You're killing your money because that's the easiest way to make your money die is to spend it. Because now dead things don't grow. Dead things do not grow, Negro. I'm just telling you. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be an asshole about it, but I'm telling you, dead things don't grow. So when you are spending money, you are killing your money, and you're killing everything that your money could have become. I don't know if that sounds too graphic, but that is literally what I visualize. Let me give an example like this. Let me explain it like this. If you have a newborn baby and you invest $1 for that baby, now that baby will have, for every dollar you invest, they'd have about $300 at retirement. So every time you spend $1 on that baby that could have been invested buying toys or whatever, that $50 toy doesn't cost you $50. It actually costs you $15,000. Does that make sense? You buy the $10 candy bar. That's not a $10 candy bar. That's a $3,000 candy bar. Are you following me? Do you get what I'm saying? If you do the math and you say, if I have a 5-year-old and I'd like for my 5-year-old to be a wealthy 65-year-old, by you know getting them started early, investing for them early, letting their wealth grow over time, Warren Buffett style. Every dollar you spend, you're giving away $300. So when you spend $1,000 sending them to the cheerleading camp, you are that cheerleading camp actually costs you $300,000. So the question you must ask yourself is cheerleading camp worth $300,000? Now, I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm just saying that the cost is higher than you anticipate. So, if Odell Beckham, if you shrink time and you go to a 30-year horizon, it's not 1 to 300. Let's say it's 1 to 50. I don't know. I got to go do the math. 1 to 50. So that means when Odell Beckham spends $1 million as a 25-year-old, he's actually spending $50 million as a 55-year-old. Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm saying? Do you understand? And one aspect of financial consciousness that I want you to consider internalizing is that you can't just look at money for what it is. You got to look at money for what it's going to become. Why is that important? It is important because that is, let me say it in a way that doesn't, my brain's starting to explode here because I'm really, let's circle back to what we talked about earlier. What's the greatest wealth generator in the history of the world? What's the greatest wealth builder in the US? The stock market, right? Okay. Why is Elon Musk so wealthy? Why does he have $500 billion in wealth? Because of the stock market. Right? He owns these assets in the stock market, and if you add them all up, they'd be worth 500 billion or whatever. Where do those numbers come from? Where do those valuations come from? How is it that I can turn this into money? How is it that some of these companies don't even make any money? Some of the Oklo is worth billions of dollars. A lot of you own Oklo stock. Oklo's worth billions of dollars, and Oklo doesn't even make a nickel. They make less money than a lot of you in here right now. There are companies on the market that lose money that are worth billions of dollars. How can that work? Well, you know why? It's because the way the stock market values an asset is it doesn't value it based on what it is. It values it based on what it's going to become. Do you understand? The stock market is a very conscious entity. It is forward looking. It says, man, Amazon, when Amazon was making no money, in 2002, they were losing billions of dollars. People were like, well, how's Amazon losing $1 billion a year? And they're worth several billion dollars because their valuation wasn't based on what they were, it was based on what they were expected to become. And you've seen what Amazon has become since that time. So my point is to say that you got to start looking at your money in the same way. You got to stop looking at what's in front of you and start looking at what's going to be in front of you. Like Wayne Gretzky used to say, he doesn't look where he's the greatest hockey player ever, right? One of the best. He didn't look at where the puck was located. He said, I always look to see where the puck is going. Conscious people don't look at where things are, they look at where things are going. And this is important because so many people get trapped in the moment that all they see is what they see in front of them. This is why they spread that stupid myth that tells you that if you're born poor, you're going to die poor. Who the hell says that? Don't judge me based on where I'm at. Judge me based on what I'm becoming. You're always becoming something. Your wealth is becoming something. And if you can't see that, then you're going to waste it because your lack of consciousness will cause you to miss 99% of the game. That's what Odell's doing. Odell's looking at 40 million and saying that ain't nothing but 40 million. No, bro, that's not 40 million. That's like 500 million. But you're going to kill it before it ever has a chance to grow. So it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is why financial psychology is so important. Mindset is everything. You have to have an ability to see where the puck is going, or you're going to miss you're going to lose every time. So if you spend your time only looking in the moment and only looking backward, then you'll never understand wealth because most of the wealth in America is out there. It's in the future. It's in the growth of AI. It's in the these stock markets. It's in all these other places that are forward looking. That's why they call in economics, they call the stock market a forward looking indicator. Nvidia's valuation, if you compare their market value to the amount of money that they've made so far, their market value's here, the amount of money they've made is here. They made a lot of money, sure, but the amount that they're going to make is massive. And that's why this company's worth $5 trillion. It's not because they've got $5 trillion in the bank. So if you want to know why I look like I was about to like pass out and lose my brain, it's because I this is what I'm seeing with Odell when he talks about this money like it's never gonna grow. Money is supposed to grow, man. And so when you don't let it grow, you're giving money away. This is why every person in our community who really truly cares about wealth will become an investor. You have to invest. If you don't invest, I'm not sure I can call you a wealth builder. I don't know what to say. You might be a hard worker, you might be a smart person, you might be a good person, but it's hard to call you an investor if you're not investing. It's hard to call you a farmer if you don't want to plant no seeds. You'll never get a harvest if you don't plant anything. That's my 2 cents for today. Thank you for listening. All right. Um, the Black Wealth Calendar is available right now if you guys want to get one. You may want to get it now if you want to give them as gifts for Christmas or something like that. You can go to blackwealthcalendar.com. Remember, you're a product of what you do on a daily basis, and the calendar is pretty awesome in the sense that it allows you to look at Black wealth principles every day and make it part of your habit. That's what I encourage you to do to get really good at this wealth thing. So you go here, you'll land on the page at blackwealthcalendar.com. You'll see that there's a bundle that includes a cheat sheet and a course and things like that. And so it's given at a fair price, or you can just buy the calendar. So you can buy the calendar only for $29.99, or you can get the whole bundle for $99. It's totally up to you. And there's a thorough description of everything that you get, and you can feel free to go take a look. It's blackwealthcalendar.com. I'll put the link in the chat. And also, as you know, later on today at noon, we're having a stock market investors class. So if you want to join us there, just go to drboycestockmarket.com and you can do a free trial. All right, so I'm going to go. And again, no disrespect to Odell Beckham Jr. I think he's a great athlete, and I appreciated his honesty. I like honesty, and I think that cross generation. I think one of the things that we have to really start to really cherish again in our community is the ability to talk across generations. I saw a video where they were talking about how when they started pushing welfare and they started telling families that to get your welfare check, you got to take the man out of the house. I think that the goal was to take the man out of the conversation period. And so 10, 15 years later, you had millions of young men that did not have proper guidance, that didn't know how to make good decisions because the elder men in the community were not available to them to give them good advice, and they were replaced by people that wanted to manipulate them for their own agenda. So I think we got to bring back the OG. I one thing that was it Ezekiel Elliott, who played for the Cowboys. I think he plays. I don't know where he's. Somebody tell me where's Ezekiel play now. I don't know where he plays now. I should know these things. He's a Buckeye like me. His father and I were talking before the last All Black National Convention, and he mentioned something that I thought was really profound. He said that black men went through a Holocaust in the 90s with the Biden crime bill, and they sent so many of us to prison, so many young black men in their 20s, and we were both in our 20s at that time. And he said now things are just turning around. These men are just now coming home after 25, 30-year prison sentences. They're just now reestablishing their role in the community. And I said, wow, that was a great way to say it. And I'm glad you understand that as well. Right. So I think that when I see a guy say something like that, I think that what's missing is that mentorship. Right. So anybody who's smart, that's listen, is Ezekiel out of he's out of the league. Oh, okay. Well, he's got money, so but he was a great player. Maybe it's time. I don't know what the situation is. I'm not here to speculate, but I know I liked his dad a lot. He's great to talk to. But long story short, I think that those OG male mentors for these young men are really important, and I think that we should celebrate that just like we celebrate our women. There's so many of our men that have so many great things to contribute to the world, and I think he could use a mentor if he doesn't have one already. So anyway, that's it, guys. What's the link for the stock market class at noon? If you log into drboystockmarket.com, Patty, that's where you can find it. The link is right there in the curriculum section. So drboystockmarket.com. And if you want to come to the convention this year, it's going to be in Jersey City, right next to Manhattan. Just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. The discount will last another 24 hours. So if you want to get discounted tickets, you can definitely do that. Now, somebody says I'm breaking up. I don't know if I'm breaking up, but that's my cue to be done. So have a good day, everybody.